To have you back. If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers. We're just about to get started, and the topic we have at hand, it's the state of emergency declaration in Rivers State. Is it a city move or is it a political move? And joining me on this discussion, I have Bola Wole. He's a veteran journalist and a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, my sister.
Okay, all right. So the topic we have at hand, that is the issue surrounding Rivers State. Like you just saw the report that is of Ibo Kete Ibas, the sole administrator of Rivers State, taking office and promising us that things will return to normalcy in Rivers State. But first, let us have your view on the declaration of state of emergency, because around different quarters, some are saying the president shouldn't have, some are saying the president should have. Where do you stand?
You see, the arguments on both sides have their merits and demerits. Those who say that the president should have declared a state of emergency, they argue that this problem had been on and on and on since 2023. And the president had intervened on a number of occasions. We have seen him mass all of them, the protagonists to Abuja. We have seen them take photographs with him to up and things like that. We have seen them enter into agreements, which they went back and flouted. So now people now say that after he has done all of that, what else do you expect? Especially when we started seeing military blowing up pipelines. That is the cocoa of Nigeria. That is where the money is coming from. So if you allow that to continue to degenerate, we'll be back to square one. When this president got into office, we were producing less than 1 million barrels of crude oil per day, from the height of 2.4, 2.5 and things like that. And it affected our resources, the amount of money that was coming to the government. And now they have struggled, they have brought it up to about 1.5, 1.4, and now for anything to derail it again, you can see that they will not want something like that to happen. That is the argument for it. We have tried to solve the problem. They refused to take to advice. We had called both sides. We had talked. We had pleaded. We had reached agreements. They did not implement, and then they went back. They are fighting again, and now they want to affect the economy of the entire country. And we know that the economy is not in very good shape. So if this thing happens again and throws the economy into a tailspin, everybody will be affected. Even those of us in Lagos will be affected. Those in every part of the country will be affected. So that is the argument for. The argument against is that, yes, it is true that we have this and we have that, but there are other ways, other things they could have done. For instance, the House of Assembly members had already initiated impeachment proceedings. That is what the law says. In a democracy, that is what the law says. The Assembly can rejig the system by impeaching either the governor or the governor and the deputy, and then another election after about 3 months or so. So they have started that process. Allow the process to run its normal course. This is a democracy. There is no need for jackboot approach to issues. You don't go about bringing military. We have already discredited military regime. We have said that military regime is an aberration. We have said that we now want a democracy. And we started running a democracy in 1999, the longest running stretch of democracy that we have had since 1960. Now, don't throw spanners in the works. You don't have to bring a military man, a retired military man, to come. You are giving the impression that the civilians can't do it. And if you, the president, you are saying that, it also affects you yourself. Somebody can come up tomorrow and say, okay, because the country is not running well, the economy is not running well, the president cannot do it. So let us bring a military man, let us bring a retired military man to come and do it. So you are setting a precedent that may not be good for our democracy. Apart from that, there are other things you could have done. For instance, if the governor was the problem, just like the Supreme Court tended to say, why don't you move him out and put the deputy there? There's a deputy governor. That's why we have deputies. If the governor is tainted, he's not doing the right thing, bring the deputy and say, okay, this is the reason why your Oga is going out. Please, let's see whether you can handle this issue. It will still be within the same political party. It will still be within the same civilian setting. And then let's see whether the deputy governor will be able to handle the matter very well. If the deputy governor cannot handle it, then let the House of Assembly that wanted to impeach the two of them. Then the Speaker of the House, according to the Constitution, will be acting governor for a period of time. There will be new election. That is what we are supposed to do. We are in a democracy. And these are the things that we should be doing. So the arguments are neither here nor there. It depends on what you think is the right thing. And it depends on your political persuasion. Many people are queuing behind political arguments. Oh, I am this party, so it is against my party. So that is why they are arguing. Oh, I am for the other party. This is against my party. That is how they argue. But for those of us who do not belong to any of these political parties, we want to look at both sides dispassionately. And we want to expose the issues involved and let the Nigerians make a decision. I think there is the need to act because the economy of the country was going to be affected. I think definitely I believe there is a need for action. But the action that has been taken is the one that I'm interrogating. Could it have been something else if the idea is to achieve peace and security in Rivers State? Is that the only option that we have? Are there other options? I think there are other options. But the people who were decided on that option for reasons best known to them.
Okay, all right. Because if we are looking at the economy, protecting economy of the country, and if we are trying to, okay, this is the reason the president is making this move. Well, let us take a look at the food basket of the nation. That's Benue State, where the farmers are constantly being displaced. Just recently, we had fire in some IDP camps in Benue State. These people are unable to go to the farmland, and perhaps if we could trace it back, this would also be one of the drivers of inflation on food in Nigeria. So if we are so focused on oil, that is one of the drivers of the economy, but what about food? Should the president too not have considered declaring state of emergency in Benue State because of the constant elder-farmer clashes that is happening there?
You were talking about food security. Do they lack food? The people we are talking about, the people who are declaring state of emergency, are they hungry? It's me and you that we are hungry. It's me and you that go to the market and we think that a bag of rice selling for 100 or so thousand is too much. They don't know how much you sell a bag of rice. They don't know how much tomato, a basket of tomato goes for in the market. Even if it goes for any amount, they can buy. I remember there was a time I was discussing, one of them called me, who is a friend of mine, said, baby, you are talking about this and are you? But we went to the market, we saw food in the market. We were saying there's food scarcity, there's no food, everywhere food. I said the problem is the money to buy it. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. He said how much is a bag of rice? I said, at that time it was 70, 75. I said, 70, 75. He said, let them go and buy now.
Oh.
He said, why can't they buy? I said, at that time the minimum wage was 30,000. Minimum wage is 30,000. He said, okay. I said, minimum wage is 30,000. How can somebody buy a bag of rice for 75? That was for 75. They don't feel that side. The side that we're talking about, the food shortage, food insecurity, they don't feel it. The one that the political elite in Nigeria will feel is when oil money is not flowing. When they can't sell crude oil, when they can't get the dollars rolling in, that is the one they will feel. That is the one they will feel in their pockets. This other one you are talking about in Benue, in Yobe, in other things like that, they hear it. They themselves say it because that is the political correct thing to say. But it does not affect them in the real sense of the word. It is you and I, it is the common man that is affected by shortage of food, by food crisis. So they are not likely to take it as important as this crude oil, this one that money that is coming in, money that we will use to finance the budget, money that we will use to pay external debt, money that we will use for this and for that. If the crude oil drops, they can understand that one. This is about food and things like that. They don't understand it. Otherwise, it is not in Rivers alone that we should have a state of emergency. Before now, we should have a state of emergency on food scarcity, food production. There should be a state of emergency. There should be a state of emergency in the education sector. There should be a state of emergency in my own state, Ondo State, where others are killing people every day. There should be a state of emergency even in Lagos here, when we had this problem in the state assembly, when we had 2 speakers, and then when a speaker was holding plenary with 4 members, which was the same thing that happened in Rivers State, before they quickly nipped it in the bud. There should be a state of emergency in the Osun that we are talking about now, and many other places. In fact, if you are going to look at the problem of there is no governance that the Supreme Court talked about, where do we have governance in Nigeria today? Do we have governance even at the national level? Do we have governance in many of the states? So ask Nigerians, they will tell you there is absence of governance in practically every sector, in practically every section of the country. So if we want to go by that, to declare a state of emergency, there should be a state of emergency nationally. In every sector, there is the need for state of emergency. Is it on security that we don't need state of emergency? We need state of emergency in every area. So the thing is not to rush to declare a state of emergency over a particular problem in a particular section of the country, because the same argument that you are using to do that can be turned on its head, and you may be forced to also look at the same argument in other sectors of the country and economy. So a state of emergency, Nigeria, in fact, as a country, is sitting on the keg of state of emergency. After the destruction of the economy that was done by the previous administration of Muhammadu Buhari, after the looting that went haywire during the government of Muhammadu Buhari, this government that has come in inherited that, and they have a problem. In fact, it's supposed to be a government that immediately it came in ought to have declared national emergency, not just a piecemeal emergency anywhere. The country itself should be made, we should all be told that Nigeria is on a state of emergency, and we should be told that there are a lot of areas that needs to be fixed, and that is what I think should be, but not this one that is sectionally done and that is seen to be supporting one political party against the other.
Okay, all right. But if we look at the genesis of this problem in Rivers State, that would be between the past governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and the current governor of Rivers State, Finalai Fubara. We've been seeing issues of loyalty. One person is no longer wanting to dance to the tune played by the other person, and then we are right at where we are right now. It's just a little thing. We probably will say it's like the butterfly effect. No one could imagine that things would escalate to this point in time. But when it comes to the issue of godfatherism in Nigeria, would you say that since Wike helped Fubara to the seat of governing Rivers State, would you say that perhaps he should have let him be and let him run the affairs of the state in ways best known to him, since it was democratically elected? Or should we say that, okay, if we are going to look at it from the moral angle of you have to be loyal to the person that has brought you there, which of these 2 instances do you feel would have been best for Rivers State?
None of the 2. You see, because it's neither here nor there. Godfathers, godson. For you to have a godfather, somebody must be willing to be godson. Is that not so? If I'm not willing to be godson, you can't be my godfather. Why are they willing to be godson? That's the question you must ask. Seeing what had happened to previous godsons, it's not as if this is the first time godfather and godson will quarrel in Nigeria. This son, Fubara, saw what happened to other godsons. In the same rivers, this same Fubara saw what happened to governor before him. Wike was not the first governor. Odile was governor. He brought somebody in. What did the person do? Amechi was governor. Wike was. So you find a consistent system of a godfather enthroning a godson, and the godson turning against the godfather. It had been consistent that in that same rivers. So if somebody now allowed himself to be made a godson, and then he became governor, and he thought that overnight, within a few months, he could turn against the Godfather. He should have the lesson of history to say that the person who did it, this is what happened to the person, and things like that. He should be prepared for what is receiving now. That's why I have said in my write-up that I don't pity him. Because why do you ride on the back of a tiger, and then when you get to office, you want to disembark? We have been told that he who rides on the back of the tiger must take there. If you attempt to disembark, you will end up in the belly of the tiger. That's what happened. So he wanted to become his own man. And then the question I ask him is, did he win the election on his own? How much of his money went into the election? Was he the best candidate for the election? Were things not turned upside down for him to emerge? Did they not know how they won the election for him? You see, when you were talking about, I won the election, did he win the election? You see, these people, when you are in there, I have been privileged to move with them. You tell the government, sir, the masses who voted for you say, sir, I know I won my election. It's not voters that voted for me. He said, let's say the truth, sir, I know how I won my election. So they know how they won their election. So a governor who is there cannot tell you that he won the election. Those who won the election for him knew that they were the ones that won the election, and they knew how they won it. And then you got there now and you decided to carry the whole cooking pot, put it to yourself, and you drag it with everybody. They won't allow, they will drag it with you. That is what is happening there. And now, on the other side of it is the fact that the person who called himself Godfather opened his mouth to criticize other godfathers when he was governor. He opened his mouth to say, never in his life will he do anything like that. Now he is in the middle of it doing it. So you now wonder, why do our politicians forget what they said yesterday? Don't they know that social media does not forget? We'll remind them. And then how do they feel? I always ask myself, how do these people feel? When you people keep telling you, they show you how you are eating your own vomit. How do they feel? So it is both of them that we have to apportion blames to. The person who agreed to be a God's son, we have to ask, you were trampling on others to get there, and it was okay for you by that time. Now you got there, you want to remove the ladder that took you there. They won't allow you. There is no politician that will allow his successor to remove the structure from under him. Once the structure is removed, you are useless. So, and that was what the person, the godson, was trying to do in Rivers. And I said in my write-up today that even the godfather in Lagos didn't allow the structure that he left behind to be removed. So, and people were blaming. I said, don't blame me. That is the nature of politics. You can't allow your structure. Immediately your structure is taken away from you, you are useless in politics. Nobody will come to you again. They will go to the other person who already has the structure. It is a fight over structure. And why are they fighting over structure? Because it is structure that will give you the political power, the leverage that you need. And it is the leverage that you need that will bring the dollars, bring the money in. So it's a question of interest, personal interest. So what is the personal interest of the godfather in the Rivers political crisis that we have? It is that the structure that I put there must be left intact, because I still need the structure. 2027 is coming. It's relevant. It depends on if he still has the structure, if you can deliver in 2027. That is what we determine whether he will remain as minister. If the person who put him as minister realizes now that the structure has been taken away from him, that is no longer relevant, he will move to the person who has the structure. That is how politics works. It's the same thing that is happening in Kano. If you are there and you don't have the structure, the person who has the structure will be the one that will be recognized. So you must struggle for the structure. That's what they are doing in Kano. They are struggling. They are dividing the structure. So at least if I can't get everything, let me get a part of it so that I can become relevant. So that is what is happening. Is fight over relevance, political relevance. Because the moment you are no longer relevant in politics, people forget you. People who are running after you now, they will stop. Let's see how many people will still run after Fubara now, that is no longer governor, that he has no money to dish out. Let's see how many people will still stay with him. Because it is all about self-interest. Some of us will call it selfish interest. But the governor told me that politics, the one they play, is different from the one I read in the university. I read politics in the university. He said the politics that they play, politics of the street, the borough politics. He said the politics of self-interest. I told him, I said, politics is the science of service of people. He said, no. He said, it's a politics. He said, politics is a game of self-interest. He said, I came to politics to service my self-interest. And that is where every one of them, they are there for their own self-interest. I said, sir, how about the people? If the people, he said, if the people get to benefit anything, he said, good luck to them.
But what does this say about democracy in Nigeria? Since it's as if the will of the people is not even being represented. So how do the people ensure that? Because at the end of the day, whenever we're having problems in Nigeria, we are always told that your power is your vote, let your vote count. And if now the narrative that we are getting is, okay, it seems your vote is not as powerful as you think it is, then what would happen? Who is going to be looking after we, the masses? Who is going to be protecting us from the self-interest of the people in power?
We are the ones that will protect ourselves, but we have not yet gotten to that level in Nigeria, where the voters are politically conscious enough, politically active enough to know that they have a vote and that their vote can count. You see, the majority of the people have been made to understand, either out of illiteracy, political illiteracy. People can go to school but may be politically illiterate. You discover some people, even professors, doctors, and the way they reason, you wonder, and this one is a professor, this one is a doctor, because they don't have political understanding. A lot of people don't have political understanding. A lot of people have also resigned themselves to fate. And whether we vote or we don't vote, they will declare somebody. And our vote, does not count, because they will, I don't want to disturb myself, Jare, so and so. They have decided they know who I am. So that political apathy is still very, 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 very on the high side in Nigeria. Unlike in other places where you have where voters are organized and where voters are literate enough to understand that they can use their vote. And then the system we operated is such that manipulations are still very rampant here. In other places, it is difficult for you to rig elections. They have a system whereby you can vote in your sitting room as we are here now. You just press your phone, you vote. Nobody is going to buy your vote out there. It is when they see you out there, they'll be offering you 5,000, 10,000. You vote. Yeah, point and kill. All those things like that. It's because you go there, you go and be queuing. You go there, there is no need. You have your, you just punch your phone. You vote anywhere. You see, until we get to that type of system where it will be difficult for votes to be manipulated, then the people's vote will count. The system that we operate at the moment can be manipulated in such a way that even if you vote, they may not count your vote. In those days, Joseph Stalin, the strong man of the USSR, he said, those who vote determine nothing, but those who count the vote determine everything. Now Nigeria, we have taken it further than that. Those who vote determine nothing. Those who count the vote determine nothing. Now, you cannot sit and relax that you are won an election now until the court, until the courts are pronounced. Even when you win at the trial, at the vote, you are at the polling booth, you are sitting at that is stage one. You go to tribunal. If you win at the tribunal, you are stage two. You go to court of appeal. If you win there, Babala of the court, Supreme Court, until the Supreme Court pronounces. It has gotten that bad. And we have had a situation where the Supreme Court pronounced that the person who came forth won an election. Technicalities. We have had a situation in Kogi where the person was not even on the ballot. Was the one that eventually became the governor. We've had a series of cases like that. Until the electoral system is such that people can vote from their room, people can vote on their phone, people's votes can be made to count. It is then that we can talk of democracy. Democracy is not just the act of telling people that they have the vote, they can go out and vote. That is the mistake we made when we were copying the white people. They got to the stage that they got to stage by stage. Initially, women were not given the votes. Why? There was a bit. When they started, if you did not have property, you could not vote. They wanted to be sure that you have a stake in the system before you are allowed to vote. But now, at the level of literacy also came in. If you were not literate, you were not allowed to vote. But now, the Mekuturu out there, the beggar out there, everyone has the same vote. Whether you are a professor, you understand what is happening, or you are an illiterate, you don't understand anything. You are from my village in Ondo State. Everybody has the same vote. People do not even understand it. We ask them, say we don't know. They say we should go and vote. Some people that you even use their tongue to say this. Everybody has them. Democracy cannot work in that situation. Democracy can only work where the people understand what is involved. They know the issues. How many people understand the issues? They are talking. How many people understand that there is a problem with the economy? How many people understand that this is the reason why we have problems? How many people understand the level of corruption in the system? How many people understand how much these political elites, how many of them understand what we even call political elites? How many of them understand what we call intra-party struggle or inter-party struggle? They don't understand. And all of them, you have given them the vote. So it means nothing to many of these people. Millions of people do not understand, do not appreciate the vote that they have. They do not know that this vote is their power. So they sell it. It is like Esau, who did not understand this birthright and sold it. It was afterwards that he understood and he cried. But the Bible says that even though he wept, he could not get it back with his tears. So a lot of our people still don't understand that their vote is power. Until we get to that level, when majority of people understand that their vote is power and that they can use it, to commercialize it, to change governments, it is then that we will have democracy. What we have now is just what people call civilian rule. We have civilians ruling. We don't have people in khaki ruling again. So we have civilian rule, but we still don't have democracy, properly so-called.
Okay, all right. Now, this step that President Bola Tinubu has taken in Rivers State, do you think that perhaps this might deter all other state governors in Nigeria from acting in a rascal way? If I'm to use some of the words that the Supreme Court used, do you think that perhaps this would also keep state governors on check, knowing that if you do not do what is right, then you might be suspended too?
Yes, it will to some extent, particularly those who are in opposition. If you are in the ruling party, you may have no such fear because you know that it may not come to you. But if you are in the in the opposition party, you will be careful because some of the things that governor did were also unwholesome. How can you go and destroy House of Assembly? Number one, it was built with taxpayers' money. And they say he's been trying to rebuild it. Rebuild it with whose money again? Is it not with the same taxpayers' money? Money that ought to have been devoted to something else. You are now using it to rebuild. You see, that is why demolish it. They said it was because it was leaking. If it was leaking, you repair it. Why waste money? So some of the things, and how can you, in good conscience, for God's sake, take your budget before 4-member House of Assembly, 4 people to pass your budget, 26, 27 others are outside? How can you, in good conscience? You see, the outside world will be laughing at us. What kind of country is this? But it was not the first to do it too. The immediate past governor of Edo State did similarly. He did similarly. He also rubbished the other members who belong to Adam Toshiomole, and they got only a few people, and he ruled with them. Well, you see, but it is not right. So our governors should understand that impunity, there is too much impunity in the system. Who will arrest me? I can do anything. I have immunity and things like that. So they should know that they are not supposed to behave like lord of the manor. So there are rules and regulations, and they are not exempted from these rules and regulations. Maybe this will start notice to all the others that be careful how you tread. That because you are governor and you have immunity does not mean that you cannot be called to question. Though the way he has been called, the manner in which he has been called may be suspect, but the fact of the case is that he has been removed as governor. And for the time being, he has
Temporarily.
been in the cooler.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that.